and welcome to the second official installment of training for UTMB 2017, following my video log vlog of training for this year, heading into this summer's 100-mile mountain race, starting and ending in Chamonix, France. And again, I'm gearing up for chucking up 50K. It's actually, now that I'm recording this after the fact of after this VO2MAX test, which you'll see footage in this video, Chuckanut's coming up, it's around the corner. It's a pretty fast race. It's gonna be a barn burner. But yeah, the training's been going well. I've been building my volume up. You can check it all out on Strava. Got up to 130 miles last week with about 13,000 feet of climbing, which is pretty good 17-hour training week. That's a lot of running for me, believe it or not. It's a lot of work. My legs got pretty tired, but we'll fast forward for footage in this episode. This VO2MAX test was shot on, I believe it was February 21st. I'll put it in the text if that's wrong, but February 21st is where this footage that you're about to see is coming from. And I wanted to analyze VO2MAX. It was my first VO2MAX test, and to put it in context, a lot of people ask me, like, why'd you get tested? What was the impetus behind this? And the real fact was it was actually part of a larger study that a fellow runner that I know in Boulder, Shalea Kipp, who's actually ran in the Olympics. She's an Olympian at the 3K steeplechase. She went to University of Colorado, teammates with Emma Coburn, and they went to the Olympics while they were undergrads. Now she's a graduate student in exercise science, physiology, doing research in the lab. They have a great lab there. They've done a lot of studies out of the University of Colorado. They call it, it's like a biomechanics lab. They got all sorts of equipment and treadmills and apparatus for testing. And this test was measuring, I don't even know exactly, but it was basically, to be in it, you had to be a fairly fast person. She was looking for, you basically had to run 16 kilometers per hour on the treadmill, or about 5:22 per mile pace on the treadmill, for at least 5 minutes at a time without going over your lactate threshold. So it had to be a very sub-maximal effort at 18 kilometers per hour on the treadmill, 5:22 per mile pace. That had to be easier than your lactate threshold, which for me actually was, doing ultra training, not being super used to running on a flat surface a ton of amount, especially at altitude here in Boulder. That's not a walk in the park, so I was a little worried about that. But the first part, I had to wear sensors, and we'll pull up the picture there. I was wearing sensors. They were measuring. They had these cool cameras that could show your movement patterns, but also showing, we would run 5-minute intervals at different paces, starting out at a pretty slow pace, 8 kilometers per hour, 10 kilometers per hour, 12 kilometers per hour. So like 12-minute mile pace, 10-minute mile pace, 8-minute mile pace, all the way up to the 18 kilometers per hour, 5:22 per mile pace. And after each 5-minute interval, I'd take a prick on my finger, measure blood lactate values, how much lactate concentration's coming up. And after the first round, it was like, okay, if you're over 4 millimoles of lactate, you're probably around your threshold, or maybe a little over your threshold, and that would be too high of an intensity. And I'm working pretty hard at the high intensity level, but I guess I was only 3.8 millimoles running 5 minutes at 18 kilometers per hour, 5:22 mile pace. So that was the first session. Next week, 5 days later, was when I actually had the VO2MAX test, and there was actually more measuring. And I should also say there was you have to put a tube in your mouth. You'll see the footage in a minute here, but it was very uncomfortable to have to put your mouth over a tube and breathe as you're running on this treadmill. I knew that was going to be part of the test, and a lot of athletes that we've coached have had this done, but I didn't quite realize how much it makes it kind of mentally harder, and it's something you have to get used to, because you're drooling all over yourself and your back of your throat gets super dry, and it's hot in the lab, and they set up a fan because you're on a treadmill. And then the worst thing was I had this like gag reflex where I thought I was gonna dry heave into the tube because I'm just nauseous, and yeah, you're drooling all over, and it feels like it's not at the right height, and it's kind of bouncing around these tubes, and you're trying to run fast on the treadmill, and Luckily, in the second round, I was a little more prepared mentally for that, and I also wore my heart rate monitor, because at the end of doing a couple more intervals, they did like some 2-minute intervals and stuff, and they were measuring with the tube apparatus, you can measure a lot of stuff. Respiratory exchange ratio, and I'll pull up the data here in a second. Respiratory exchange ratio at different paces, as well as, you know, my heart rate, as well as the biomechanical factors. And then for the VO2max test, obviously you need to have a tube in your mouth as well. And having the heart rate monitor on also, I just wanted to see what I could get my heart rate up to. Because a lot of people are like, oh, your heart rate's kind of abnormally low for someone your age, and it kind of is on the lower side, I'd say. But there's huge heart rate variations. So we'll analyze the test. Let's break it down. We'll pull up the video, put up some footage here. VO2max test, the protocols are different, but for this one, she wanted us to run, the belt would be moving at 18 kilometers per hour, or no, 16 kilometers per hour. It's about 602 per mile pace, so, you know, roughly about 10 miles per hour for my US friends. That's a constant, the belt's running at that speed. Now, it starts off flat. After 1 minute, it goes up to 1% incline. That's not a 1%, not a 1 degree angle, it's 1% grade. There is a difference. So after 1 minute, 1% incline. 2 minutes, it goes up to 2%. 3 minutes, 3% incline. 4 minutes, and so on and so forth. So you're going up 1% grade, uphill slope on the treadmill for every minute you go into the test. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is gonna get pretty hard, probably pretty fast. And you know, being at altitude in Boulder, I always say, you know, it's you just can't. The oxygen's not as concentrated up here, so even if you live up here and train up here, I'm always like 10 seconds per mile too slow on a lot of my workouts. Even lactate threshold workouts, I'm barely hitting marathon pace. It's embarrassing. But basically, the VO2max test confirmed what I already kind of expected about myself, and that is my VO2max is actually relatively low for someone that has run even my collegiate 5K and 10K times, which are not anything to write home about, especially for Division I college in the U.S. They're pretty modest. Not, you know, it's not a great thing. And the thing is, racing a 3K on a track a lot in college, all out, and in high school for that matter, is actually a pretty good indicator. If you run really fast for a 3K or a 5K, then you probably have a pretty high VO2max, because those are the types of events where you could really get, you really have to be at, you know, 100% maximum heart rate and breathing really efficiently. You know, anything between 7 to 12 minutes roughly. You know, most people, that's a 3K. Is going to be a really good indicator of, oh yeah, your VO2max is probably pretty high and you're a pretty fast runner. But, and this is the big catch, so, you know, people ask my number. In this test, I lasted a little over 9 minutes, and it was getting really freaking hard. Shaleia was trying to cheer me on, but you know, she's an Olympian, she's used to testing Olympians. There's all sorts of really fast, awesome people that come through that lab in CU Boulder, so you know, nothing impressive with the VO2max test. Yeah, it lasted a long time. It doesn't really matter how long you last, that doesn't mean your VO2max is higher. It just means you either wussed out early, and I do feel like maybe I wussed out a little early, because mentally you can't quite put yourself in like a race type of situation. When I ran in college, it was like the team title's on the line, like everyone's cheering, and you're going around the track and you're racing other guys head to head and you're trying to sprint as hard as you can. Little hard to simulate in the lab when you're just on a treadmill and you're like la-di-da. But wearing my heart rate monitor, I was able to see my heart rate steadily climb, and with the uphill stimulus it was really good, because instead of running on a flat treadmill at a super fast pace, like 440 mile pace, which would have been really brutal, I was getting to really dig into the hill, and I did like that. So how you do the VO2max kind of matters, and you know, I was fatigued. I was running 120 miles that week. I had just done some long runs, hadn't done a lot of speed work or intense work to elicit a high lactate tolerance, or to you know, get used to running up to 100% maximum heart rate. But you know, I was watching my heart rate climb, and in some workouts, in hill workouts in the past, like doing 3 or 4 minute hill repeat intervals, going pretty hard, I've seen my heart rate get up into like 176, maybe 178. And you know, doing 8 by 1,000 meters on the track before Boston a couple years ago, I closed with like a 255 kilometer, sprinting pretty hard, and I remember my heart rate was like 176, and so I'm like, okay, you know, max is probably over 180. So in this test, in the VO2MAX test, basically I did get it right in the last couple of minutes. I was seeing 181, maybe a 182 for maximum heart rate, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. I think, you know, maybe I wussed out mentally a little bit, so maybe it could have gotten up to 183, but you know, give or take, it's not 220 minus my age exactly, because I'm not that old yet, but it's kind of close. And you know, a lot of people we coach, their heart rate's all over the place. So you know, max heart rate doesn't really matter. As Shalea said, it's all about stroke volume anyway. Just like VO2max is also just a number. And so she said my VO2max got up to 70, and this is measured in milliliters per kilogram body weight per minute of exercise. But she kind of took an average, so they take an average during that 9-minute test, and now it comes, and I tapped out at 9 minutes here. I'm not sure if we'll edit into some of the footage there, but you can see it at the end. Basically, you know, averaged out, it was only 67 for VO2max, which is, you know, look up Jack Daniel's distance running formula book, and he's got a VDOT table and all that, and that's equivalent to like a, I don't even know, something like a 16-minute 5K, maybe 15:35K, and gosh, I'd like to think I'm in better shape than that right now, but you know, when I was at my peak, running 2:16 in the marathon, 1:04 in the half marathon, 29:47 for 10K, I think my VO2max is a little closer to 70 at least, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You know, there could be testing error to some degree. I think their lab was pretty dialed, and I think the test was a great effort, but you know, like I said, VO2max, you think of like horsepower, you think of like oxygen carrying capacity, you know, all out high octane. But if it doesn't translate to actual running performances, then it doesn't really matter. So, and you know, likewise, if you're a cyclist and you can't you can't spin very well, then you know, you're not able to pull out that VO2max to your advantage for a top race performance or for high level training. So basically, I had these numbers for different speeds. She also gave me my respiratory exchange ratio, which is a ratio of carbon dioxide, you're exhaling carbon dioxide, utilizing oxygen. It's a ratio between the oxygen and carbon dioxide, basically. And you know, at 939 per mile pace, or 10 kilometers per hour, my RER was 0.83. Then, you know, it actually stayed pretty constant, even at 653 per mile pace, or about 10, 12, I think that's 14 kilometers per hour, 653 mile pace, a 3 minute, or that's about a 3:02 marathon pace, roughly. Respiratory exchange ratio goes up to 0.855, and you know, if it's around 0.85, you're definitely burning a mix of fat and carbohydrates. That's usually what people like to talk about when it comes to RER, is like, you know, how much fat burning are you doing at different intensities. Then we pop up to, even at 602 miles pace, or you know, 16 kilometers per hour, it's still 0.87, the RER. Then at 522 mile pace, 18 kilometers per hour, I pop up to 0.98. And I think during the VO2max test, I was well over 1.0 on the RER, but you know, that's to be expected. There's a high you know, you're burning all carbs basically at VO2max. You basically have to be. So you generate a lot of power burning carbs, high octane fuel. But you know, I don't really care about those numbers either, unless it means I'm going to increase my performance, which I don't think it does. The ratio of fat burning to carb burning doesn't really do anything for me.
I know.
Whew.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Is it only 65?
No, that was your last one you ended on. You hit up to 70.
Oh, okay.
So we'll take the average. You're probably somewhere around 68, 69. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Is that what you're
That's
guessing?
fine. More or less, yeah. Well, Daniel's tables.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd have no idea.
Yeah, you hit that 70. I was like, keep going up, keep going up.
Yeah. I was feeling that lactic acid in my arms.
In your arms?
Yeah, I feel it in my biceps. Should probably lift weights.
Yeah. No, you did really great.
Oh, thanks. I've never had my heart rate go up that high. The big thing that I was really interested in with this test, and I think the thing that's the most important for long-term development in distance runners, besides lactate values would have been nice to see, but we know not over 4.0 millimoles at 522 mile pace, is the running economy measurement, running economy values. And you know, we do a whole chapter of this in the Sage Running Secret, our ebook, where I say, are you a Mustang or are you a Prius? And it's comparing running economy to looking at your body. Think of yourself as being like a car. You know, are you a Mustang? Are you a Prius? Are you a Jeep Hummer? Or are you a Subaru Outback? Something like that. Are you a sports car or are you a limousine? The running economy, the best analogy really in simplistic terms is going to be fuel efficiency, the fuel efficiency of a car in you know, miles per gallon. You know, how far you could go on a certain amount of fuel. Whereas we look at economy and running economy, it's oxygen consumption per kilometer or per mile. So, you know, how efficiently are you utilizing oxygen? It's not just about your VO2 max. It's not just about your heart and lung fitness and, you know, oxygen utilization of the muscles. It also takes into account your shoes. It takes into account your running form. It takes into account your musculature. It takes into account some mental factors as well, because it's based on applying VO2 max to actual race performances and running performances and actual speeds maybe on a flat surface. And if you run, you know, on the track or the road, that's easier to do. If you run in the mountains, it comes down to the secret of what I call variable running economy, right? I'm a more economical runner uphill. I love running uphill. On downhills, I'm shitty. My economy's trash. Other people, it's maybe vice versa. Other people maybe like the flats more naturally, and some of it's, you know, individual genetic differences. Other things could be trained. We try to improve running economy by running more miles. We try to improve our running economy even as we get older and VO2 max drops. Running economy could get more efficient and our performances could still increase even though we're in our 30s and 40s and 50s. That's because running economy comes into play. So running economy is really the secret. It's really the key to long-term success. And you know, your VO2 max could be 90. You could be, you know, Killian Jornet range, right? 85, whatever. Lance Armstrong, 90 VO2 max. But if you have horrible running form, you can't do anything about it, right? And you know, maybe yeah, if you're better in the mountains than you are on a flat road, but we don't know. So this was treadmill tests at different speeds. Running economy, luckily, okay, my VO2 max is relatively low given the times that I've run. Most people that run a, you know, 14:29 5K or a 20:29 47 10K, I would say a lot of my college teammates that were faster than me or around the times that I ran, a lot of them probably had a pretty higher VO2 max than I did. Maybe a couple of them had a lower one, I don't know. But I'd say most of them probably had higher VO2 max. You know, I have asthma, I can't breathe very well, and always puffing and puffing, it seems like. So VO2 max is shoddy, but running economy is pretty good, my running efficiency. And that was measured in milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body weight per kilometer of distance covered. So we look at it maybe, you know, at a certain pace. Oh, okay, you know, 522 mile pace, that's about roughly 320, 322 per kilometer. So running economy, the other thing is it doesn't speed up necessarily. It doesn't get less efficient with speed. So you see this change where my running economy was most efficient at 939 per mile pace, or about 10 kilometers per hour, so pretty slow speed. I was 188, whereas, you know, at 653 per mile pace, or what is that, 8, 12, 14 kilometers per hour, my running economy is 189, right? 189. Lower numbers, more efficient. It means you're utilizing less oxygen to cover a kilometer. But even at 6:02 mile pace or 16 kilometers per hour, my running economy is 194, and then even ratcheting it up to 5:22 per mile pace or 18 kilometers per hour, running economy is 195, and that's getting closer to my marathon race pace. So that's pretty good, keeping it under 200. I believe Frank Shorter was around 190, except he was at his marathon pace, which was 306 per kilometer pace, so just under 5 minutes per mile. Frank Shorter having one of the best running economy of a lot of American distance runners if you go back in history, because Frank Shorter also had a pretty low VO2 max for a guy that could run a 2:10 marathon, right? His VO2 max was only 70 or 72, and he's out there winning Olympic gold in the marathon, throwing down these surges because he had better running economy. So that's really the takeaway that I learned in the lab, is that running economy is what matters, and it's cool to get all these numbers, crunch all this data, but what it really comes down to is, does this improve my performance? Does this improve my methods of training and working my strengths and weaknesses in different ways so that I could be a better runner and I can improve? And it's fun. It's fun to participate in the lab. I wanted to help Shalea out with a study. I'm interested in what the results will be, and it's great to see the science applied. And great coaching is always a science and an art. So it's how Sandy and I always have it in our philosophy on our coaching website, sidgerunning.com, and in our training plans. And so sorry, this didn't mean to be a training talk or business plug, but thanks so much for following along the series. Be sure to subscribe. I got more videos on the way for you guys, more episodes. Really appreciate all the feedback and support. Hope your running's going well, and stay tuned for more VO2 Max Productions.